Alright, hit the button, making a video. Hey, airplane. Yeah, I thought I'd talk about the God delusion thing. Just because I have been having some conversations lately. I try to avoid it because, yeah, it's no point. But there sort of is a point, because I've sort of made the argument before that the biggest obstacle to conveying truth or knowledge or reality into other people's brains is the fact that they already have their brain occupied with bullshit, crap, nonsense, mumbo jumbo. And as long as that's in there, you can't smash anything good in. You know, nothing, the right stuff ain't gonna fit. It's not gonna be compatible with their crap that they're basing their notions on. And I guess part of this conversation comes down to this idea, like there's probably some certain premise thing, certain basic ideas that people have to have. Because I really don't think most religious people are sincere. And so you would have to argue that they'd have to know inside the wheels would be turning, and they'd say, okay, this is probably bullshit. But they're rationalizing an excuse not to explain any further. They just say, okay, but I'm not going to accept the consequences of non-faith. And, you know, obviously the atheists do this all the time, in that, you know, they're sitting here looking at a world created by a molecule, and they're afraid, you know, to question anything that happens. Anything that takes place, they're still doing the same old, you know, not my fault. I don't have anything to do with anything. It's nature. You know, nature is to be whatever, revered, respected, idolized, never doubted, never questioned. And yeah, that obviously doesn't work. I mean, you gotta question the insanity of the process. And you have to question everything about where we came from and what the hell we are. And they don't do that. But my point is that the religious people kind of avoid it altogether. And I think that's partly because they do have some sort of underlying philosophy that really separates them from reality, from the rest of the world. They really are living from the inside out. The whole idea of thinking about the future that goes beyond their own existence, yeah, who cares? And you can sort of see that in the fact that we do have policies that are just obviously unsustainable, and people will scream about it a little bit, but the masses don't give a damn. And that's just sort of an obvious giveaway that people aren't living for the idea of sentience on Earth. They're living for their own personal sentience. Their own personal welfare is the only welfare that really matters to them. And yeah, as long as people have that kind of attitude, it's going to be really hard to talk about anything important, because it has to somehow relate to them. And you certainly, if it has any kind of sacrifice tied to it that they might have to make to their welfare, well, then they really don't want to hear it. You know, they're really going to find a way to, global warming, you know, they'll find a way to just walk away from that conversation. So that's a real problem. So the first thing you got to do is motivate people with the idea in their head that this does matter. All right, it matters whether there is or isn't a God. It matters, you know, whether we can do something with this sentience of ours to maximize the condition of the sentient, to get the most out of the humans that exist. And you know, I think it's a kind of an obvious argument, but I guess for a lot of people it's just a futile one, where they just say, well, the assholes will be the assholes, who cares? I'm just going to do my thing, I'm going to worry about myself, and that's it. And that's just too stupid for words, because we are, in a sense, stuck with this caretaker kind of role. I mean, we are the only janitors in town. And if we ain't going to fix it, it ain't going to get fixed. It's that simple. You know, especially if there ain't no God. So anyway, so that's one of the first imbecilities that has to be eradicated from somebody's brain, is this idea that it doesn't matter. That it's not critically important what we do and what we say to each other and how we say it and all this other bullshit. But it is critically important. The welfare of gazillions of sentient beings hang in the balance and all that kind of bullshit. Things as equal to yourself, things as real as yourself, will be born into the world tomorrow. Now you can either worry about that and take care to make sure they're born into the right conditions, or you can be a victim of your own neglect and end up being your own slave and accomplishing nothing. Alright, so yes, that's the first premise. I guess the second argument would be to the religious people that they can't keep walking this fence thing. They either, you know, this riding on faith and, you know, riding on a, well, it's a fail-safe, Occam's razor or some kind of other bullshit like, well, I might as well believe in it because there's no harm. Well, there's a huge harm because it's a fucking lie. And it, you don't do the janitorial thing right if you're not capable of identifying the mess. You're blind because you have a wrong description of what we're doing here and whether we're doing it efficiently or functionally and all that other kind of crap, because you have a bunch of dogmatic, idiotic memes and moralities rolling around in your imbecile head. And so it really does matter. It matters big time. Alright. So, yeah, so that's the second argument, is that you got to make people care about the truth of the issue, getting the truth right, and not playing around saying it doesn't matter whether you have faith or you don't have faith, or whether you're religious or you're not religious, as long as you know, give your 10% to the poor or something, everything's just fine. And that's a crock of shit. There's a lot more to be decided and a lot more work to be done here, you know, than, you know, giving a quarter to a homeless guy. So that's kind of bullshit. Alright, so I guess now we can finally get to the whole idea of the religion thing. And you can kind of package all these religions in the same package, right? It's basically this idea that there's some kind of unsignatured, you know, intelligence behind the universe. That it doesn't, you know, that has no, like, no obvious birthplace, no origin, that just somehow always was. Like somehow the universe always was intelligent, or always had, you know, one of these God things roaming about, doing the, you know, I'm going to make some humans and, you know, jerk them off psychologically for, you know, a few million years. You know, why? What is that? So yeah, you have to, you know, all of them have that in common. So all you have to do is destroy this notion that something about this is how an intelligence functions. That an intelligence sits around in a universe that's eternal, in a place where it always existed, and it basically just plays games with knowledge seeking, basically. Basically born honest anyway, just trying to eke out an existence, these little sentient feeling need machines. So in my opinion, it's like a metaphor might be for this kind of God that does this game that we're caught up in. It's like you having you know, a pet hamster, and you just spent all day tormenting it. You know, instead of giving it food and petting it, you tormented it. You just teased it. You showed it the food, and then you hit it, and you did all this stuff just to play tricks on it. And you tore off one of its toes, or You did all this other crap just to harass it and to punish it. And for what? I mean, it'd be sick. It wouldn't have anything to do with logic or intelligence. There's nothing logical or intelligent in, this stupid faith game. Belief without reason, without evidence and logic as your source for confidence for the sake of confidence in the name of God. I mean, it's a circular logic, and it's so fatally and fundamentally retarded, to justify something that without evidence. And then you have these old books in the first place, these old religions, most of them. I mean, we already know people can't tell a story, 15 minutes later the story is all different, because people can never repeat it right. I mean, the hurricane that hit here last week, 10 years from now, the stories are going to be like, oh yeah, there was 900 inches of rain and the winds were 700 miles an hour. I mean, it'd just be a bunch of bullshit. But the truth is, now everything's recorded, so you can't get away with those kind of lies. But I think you can, if you're honest with yourself, Mr. Religious Fucktard, you know that if there was a videotape machine running, for Christ's birth and Christ's life, that story would be a lot different than the story you're believing in. And this is all just a story. That's all it is. It's a fable, meant to comfort children. It shouldn't be called shouldn't be a serious human's philosophy. It shouldn't be the core of their understanding of reality. We've acquired intelligence incidentally, because a little bit of it gave us a competitive advantage in an environment. And that's the only reason we got it. And now we got it, we know how it works. It works and functions best when it's logically strict and when it has rules of evidence. And just like a courtroom or something else, when that's functioning right, when it's disciplined by principle, it'll do right. And that's how our brain functions. And you're just breaking the brain. You're throwing out the logic, throwing out the only resource of real value, our intelligence, and just replacing, intelligent conclusions with a fable, a nonsense, a three-pig story. And it just fundamentally destroys your capacity to interact in this world in any kind of correct, appropriate, useful, wise, efficient, productive, that's a key word, in any kind of productive manner, because your values are all bent and twisted and ruined by this nonsense that you've built your scales out of, this rubbish. And so you can't function, you can't do the balancing of the truth and the facts, because you've disengaged your logical functionality by injecting a huge pile of rubbish as one of the variables, as one of the pieces of the equation. So now all the math is ruined. It's like if you're going to do math and pi would be part of the equation. It's like you got pi wrong, and as long as you got the wrong number, everything else is going to break. Your whole equation is rubbish because you broke one of the variables with bullshit. Why would intelligence do this? Again, ask yourself the question and try to come up with a rational answer. Why would a God exist for eternity if he's a psychotic bastard, a lunatic, an emotional mess? It doesn't make any sense. And he'd do things for intelligent reasons. He'd do things refined and smart, like an architect who knows what he's doing, builds a sturdy, attractive, sensible building. And it's the same kind of engineering. You know, you get to the moon with careful, precise engineering. And there's slop all over this. This is just so sloppy. There's no way an intelligence would do the human experiment this way. Just no way. We're more functional in what we do in the world than this God's design that has all these obvious unfairnesses and injustices built into it. All this, and this obvious absence of the intelligence participation. Nothing intelligent creates something precious, something valuable like sentience, and then runs away. Nothing intelligent would do that. It's just too fundamental a truth. You just can't unravel that. Even with your God works in mysterious ways bullshit, and that's all that is. I mean, just pull that one out of nowhere. No logical basis. It's just a great excuse. I'll just make up an excuse for God. I'll just call it mysterious. There. Now he can do anything he wants, and we'll just call it mysterious. No rules. Doesn't have to be logical or sensible or reasonable. We'll just call it mysterious. And can't you see what a cheap device that is? Can't you sense what an insult to your intelligence that is? Come on. Get with the program. Face the hard truth. We're a manifestation of DNA reproduction. And we have a lot to justify in terms of our own existence and what we are sanctioning, what we are allowing to take place on this planet as the only known intelligence in the universe. Enough. Till next time and such.